Hello and welcome to the Ultrawizard Ramble. This is episode number 8, and I'm your host, Patrick Reagan. Today I'm going to get a chance to chat with my friend Jason Green, who's the owner of Yeti Trail Runners, which is an awesome trail running group here in Appalachia. He has a series of different races. I've had a chance to run a few of them. The Damn Yeti, which is a 50K 50 miler that he holds in the early summer, and then the Yeti 100, which he holds in the fall. I hope you enjoy our conversation. All right, long overdue. Welcome to the cast, Jason.
Thank you so much. It's we've been away from each other for a minute, so this is good to catch up.
Yeah, man, we get on the phone quite often, but I'm excited today to unpackage everything. Jason Green, Yeti 100, snake lore, faith healing. What else you got on there? Moonshining and ultra running. Ultra trail running specifically.
Everyone might know this reference from the best books in Appalachia, Foxfire.
Yeah, so that's where it all starts, is Appalachia for you.
Yeah.
All right, man. So everyone, Jason Green, creator of the wonderful culture Yeti Trail Runners. The Yeti 100 just happened very recently, and I'm excited to unpackage you and everything about your brand today, man. I of course know a whole lot of this information, but I'm excited for our audience to just hear more about you, man. So first and foremost, Jason, tell us where you come from, and tell us a little bit about how everything got started. With your business, with your, cult, not a cult.
So I grew up in a small town in Virginia called Bristol, Virginia, and I belonged to a little skateboard gang there for years and years and years, and I used to host a bunch of skateboard contests behind the Chevron there, and the guy that owned the Chevron would get mad at me, and but basically I became a weird adult and was working in the alcohol industry and distribution of craft beer and craft spirits. And the alcohol industry lends itself to not like a very healthy lifestyle, right? You're in a bar every night, you're drinking over meetings for hours on end. And it's just like a routine checkup with my family, my primary care physician. And I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I pick up this magazine, and the article is about someone running 50 miles. At the time,
Whoa.
I'm pretty sure it's pretty sure Dean Karnassus, right? Like it has to be him, right? And I was like,
what year is this, Jason?
This was maybe about 15 years ago. So,
yeah, 2007,
yeah,
2008,
yeah,
something like that.
And at the time, like I developed, I'd smoke, I drank whiskey all night and IPAs all day, right? Like that's just the industry. And I read that article, and it kind of just, like I said, there's some things in your life. Like when I found skateboarding, it found me. I did not find it, right? Like I tell people, I showed up to say goodbye to my friend that was moving, and he left a skateboard in the yard. And I picked it up, and I'm still not off of it. So by the time when they call me back and I'm walking back and I sit down, I look at my doctor and I'm like, do you think I could run 50 miles? And he was like, I think that would take a long time to achieve.
Yeah. Like, did he mean for you specifically, or did he just have also
that's just what he kind of said. I think he had no, and I said, how do I quit smoking? And he said, you just quit. And I walked out the door that day of the office. I quit smoking. I went by Target or somewhere and bought some shorts. And I lived on a state park in Atlanta there. And I ran in cross country in high school and was Boy Scouts camping. And so very loved being on the trails and the woods. And in my mind, I thought I was just going to run 4 or 5 miles, right? I made it a half a mile, huffing and puffing back. But every day, like I would just try my best. And believe it or not, there wasn't many ultra runners back then, right? Like, so I run into a guy named David Milner. And David Milner had ran about 40 ultras. And he became my mentor. So between the time I met him, and I ran 50 miles 11 months later, and I ran those 50 miles in 10 hours and 45 minutes.
Yo, that's just such a huge evolution. So this is...
And having a mentor, like, and my mentor, Dave, like, I owe everything to him. Like, all the culture of ultra running is he set inside of me. He was like, Jay, before you run your first race, you need to volunteer at 3, period.
Whoa, cool. That's awesome.
And he was like, and he just, the great thing about him is he made running so fun, because in his early life, he was like a stand-up comedian in the 80s, right? So
it's funny, we were just talking about comedy in a different sense.
Yeah, and we would just be running, and he would just have this like very good comedic outlook on life, and it just, I mean, we were pumping, before he moved away, we were pumping like 1,200 miles a year at Sweetwater Creek, right? And we never got tired, we never got bored, we just enjoy. And that's what having a mentor, coach, friend will do for you, right? It really will give you a lot of success in ultra running, right? Instead of just trying to figure out the shit on your own.
Yeah, to have a good understanding of what it has been like for that person. Like, they've done maybe 10 ultras, 20 ultras, 30 ultras.
Yeah.
They've been around the culture for a long time. Latch on to someone like that so that they can teach you to avoid the hard lessons that most people get with ultra running right out the gates, right?
Yeah. And so what I learned from Dave, it's like, oh man, this welcoming spirit of a person. And so when I ran my first ever race, I got to the finish.
Is it 50K?
50K, yeah. Only ran like 150K before the 50 miler. And nobody gave a shit. Like, I think I came in at like 8 hours, 45 minutes. It's funny how you remember that kind of shit. It just came out, right?
It is, yeah.
And I was like, how does something I love so much not give a shit about me? And like ultra racing, right? Like, I was like, I feel like ultra running is inside of me and I have to do it. And I want to get with other people and do it and race. But I was let down. And because I wasn't fast and I wasn't up front, no one really cared. And so I thought back to what the skateboarding community taught me and, putting on the skate contest. And I said, what if I just have people at my house and we start running out of my garage?
Yeah.
Now
we're talking.
Yeah.
This is what it feels like to run a Yeti race.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is what we did. This is how it all started. This is how the Yeti started. It like still today. We don't allow sponsors. There's no boards. There's no meetings. There's no CEOs, right? And there's sure as hell no surrender, right? Like, so that's and people just loved it, right? The vibe, whether you were fast, mid pack, back of the pack, like if you came to the house, you came to the garage. And the great thing is I worked in the craft beer liquor industry. So we had bukus of libations, right? And it's really how it started, and it just grew. Like, people identified with it, right? Like, and it was such a good feeling. And today, like, I just finished up the race on Sunday. That's 11 years old, a 50K that we do in my backyard of Atlanta there. And to see these first timers, and they first to last, like, it's such amazing to see that the spirit still lives of what I wanted to do, where people are having fun and they're making deep and meaningful connections with each other on the course and afterwards. And Pat, like, I know
that's what it's about. Me and you talk about that a lot. That is the core of it all. The core of it all is the friendships you make, right? Me and you have become really good friends, specifically because, I don't know, man, you gave me a spot into your race last minute during a year that was really hard, 2020.
Yeah.
And I brought you a bad religion record, and ever since, we were like friends ever since. Right?
And let's think about this for a minute, right? Like, here's Pat winning a bunch of races. There's Jason, the back of the pack. Pat invites Jason to come be his crew chief at the race, right? I mean, this is what the community is about, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it all melt. Like, the first place person And we all know what it takes to be out there, right? And no one is above that, or you know. And I think that's the greatest thing about ultra running. That's what I love about skateboarding. I used to tell people at the park, some days the person who just learned to drop in, they got the biggest claps of the day, right? People were just like celebrating, you know, finally you dropped in, right? Very simplistic, basic trick. But the community and culture of skateboarding truly is what I brought to ultra running. And that early punk, you know, of
I would say so for sure.
like, because early punk skateboarding, and I think ultra running to me is the same. This is why I say with the Yetis will always have a space for you, no matter what. And there's no matter what, and that's the end of it. And that's what skateboarding. It always saved a place for me, and it saved a place for others who might not fit in, who fit in, whatever it might be. There's the space held for you.
Yeah, there's no gatekeeping.
No,
The nice thing about that, I think in general, that is what I've enjoyed so much about ultra running, that everybody's an open book, that everybody's willing to share, that no one turns down the advice of mentors, right? Like,
no.
Man, I've just tried to be a sponge, whether it's you or Megan Canfield or Ian Sharman. I want to absorb it all. I want to ask you all questions because we all have such different experiences. It doesn't even so much matter like what speed you've run these things in. It's like, what kind of problems have you seen in your lifespan as an ultra runner, and how can I personally learn from it? Right?
100. Yes, absolutely. This is, you know, and this is why I hope people listening to this know, and now is the time to do what you can to protect our community, right? As it grows, and you know, it's right now growing in a very positive direction, right? But as corporations enter the sport, it might not be so much that way, and so it's up to us to, you know, to spread the spirit, right? Do like my Dave told me, you know, for every race you run, volunteer at 3, right? Like, use your history with ultra running and provide it to someone else so they get the right experience at the race. And I always was just telling someone last week, I said, you know, I'm training for Javelina, and that's 2 weeks away, and I went and ran this race. I finished. No one gave a shit, right? This is sorry, not this year. Last year I ran a race. Sorry, I was training for Javelina then too. Like, went every 2 years.
Yeah,
and I ran this race. I ran this race, and no one gave a shit, right? And I was like, again, I was like, oh man, it was just like, wasn't a big over the top production. It was just like a small little race, ultra race, and I was like, man, is this entering back into our community? And so I told someone, and they're like, oh, you should really call them the fuck out. And I was like, I don't know if that's my style, you know? And I thought about like what to do for a couple of days. And I called my mom, you know, as all, you know, any Appalachian boy can call his mom. And then we're talking. I was like, you know, it didn't feel right. And it didn't feel like, I hope it's not me changing, you know? And she said, you know what you should do? Go back next year and volunteer and do your Yeti bullshit at the end of the race. And so that's what I did.
Man.
That's what I did. I brought out a bell, fucking fireball. I just took over their finish line. It was just like, so, and you know, it changed it. And hopefully the people running got a kick out of it and go on to do some really cool shit. So that's what I like. So if you're listening to this, like, and you carry the torch, that's how you can pass it, like by shining that light to other people, no matter what, right? Like,
well, it's a vibe, right? Like, I'll say our because it's in my town, and yeah. I kick in a little help here or there, but Dark Anchor, right?
Yes.
It's one of our hometown hundreds. We've got the Bronze Dragonfly. It's a great event run by rough runners around the lake. We've got loop courses here in Savannah, right? That's the nature of the beast in our town. And Dark Anchor is in one of our coolest, most historic parks. So when I was initially measuring the course for Jason, going out, and we were thinking about the loop and thinking about the 100K, you're very purposeful. Almost everything you do is purposeful. You're like, the race is going to be 66.6 miles, I guess, right? Did I just do the math right? Did you tell me 3.34? And I was like, yeah, 3.34. He's like, that's 66 point, right? Everything is quite purposeful in this way with you, man, where you think a lot about the aesthetics of how the race is going to come off, right? You think a lot about how are people going to feel at the finish line? How are people going to feel coming through the aid stations? You are seen along the course so often throughout race day, and not particularly even among different groups of runners, right? Like you're not there for the fastest runners. You may be, but it's not your priority to go, okay, I've seen the first 10 runners, I'm going to go see the first 10 runners again. You're there at certain locations for everyone in the pack. So I think what you think about more than anything, at least from my perception, is the vibe, right?
Oh, yes. I want people to have a true experience, right? Like seeing a punk rock show, right? Like I want you to feel that way. I want you to feel like, what the fuck? Did I run a race, or why the fuck did they give me a skateboard deck? Right? I want people to go, whatever it is, this really is beating inside of me, right? And that's what we get. Like I want people to catch that vibe and to belong to Yeti and spread the word. Not for me. I want people to just carry it on. That way, you know, I still am deep into the skateboard scene and culture, and I work with kids and we give away decks. And when I can't run anymore, I want someone to have the torch in the community to keep that whole vibe going, right? I think it's
sure, absolutely.
Skateboarding almost died when ESPN and shit got involved with it, right? Like, but
at least the sport as you knew it, right?
Yes,
it started to become something else, which maybe you weren't as fond of, right?
Yeah, and you know things change, period, right? But, you know, skateboarders started not skateboarding for fun, right? Ultra runners should run for fun. You should do all this bullshit for fun, right?
I agree, man.
Right?
When I'm not having fun running, what is it? What is it then, right? It's a bit gutted.
Yeah,
you have to get back to. You have to remember the core of it, why you started it.
Yeah, and this is fun. Like I just get I want people to come and have a memorable experience, and really come back with, oh, I found my group of people, or I found some weirdos, but I like it. I'm going to go see them again. You know what I mean? Like, I like that about the Yetis, and I like what people have done with it. The people who run the races really carry the torch. I mean, and they guide me a lot now, right? Like, so I use their voice. I'm like, you know, they'll be like, oh, maybe let's do this, Jake. And I'm like, what a great idea. Right. And we just do it. I you know,
sure.
I'm not the CEO. We don't have a CFO, CEO. I'm none of that. My only thing that pisses me off about the Yeti trail runners is I would like to run a Yeti race. Like that damn Yeti race from the top where I grew up to the brewery. I'm like, I would run that shit every year. And I tell you, during that race, I stand down there and I'm so jealous. Like I'm just jealous. So, and people like, you should run it. And I was like, you know, I could never forgive myself if something happened to someone and I wasn't there. You know, like
you would miss some of the finishers. You wouldn't be on deck and on hand if there was an issue for someone, right? You wouldn't be able to maybe pick up that person that's not believing in themselves anymore and help them to the finish line. And then they remember you for the rest of their life because they say, man, I was at mile 25 and I thought there's no way I can finish 55K. And the owner of the company, the guy, the Yeti guy, he came out and he helped me. He gave me some points that helped me get to the finish line and how to troubleshoot the situation. And that's what you're all about.
Yeah. And I think I try to tell people like that. I think a lot of the people who finish the race, like when I'm running races, sometimes I remember the grit. I think about the grit of Tom Green. I think about some of the just amazing finishes I've seen, and And I will pull from that in my own race. You know, when things are sideways and not going well like they do, and I'm trying to, I've flatted 2 tires and there's no spares to put on. You know, like I
Yeah,
start
sure.
thinking about like, you know, the grit of some of the people that run the race, and I just thrive, right? And it pushes me through, you know? So I definitely gain a lot. Like, and I like to see that in ultra running, just this incredible movement forward with it, you know, no matter what. So, but I do
I've
like
got
I
to
tell,
experience it a few times at your races, right? This
yeah,
vibe that you're talking about, and if you're in a bad patch and Jason's at an aid station, I'll say that if you walk out of there in a bad patch, you just have a bad mindset.
yes,
Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because whether it's the Damn Yeti or the Yeti 100, they've both been really special experiences. Sure, they're on the same trail,
yeah.
but they're both a very different vibe. And
Oh,
I
yes,
expect all your races are. You've invited me to some of the other ones I haven't made quite yet.
yeah.
Um, let's talk about when you first started the Yeti races. What was the first one? What was your dream? Was it the Damn Yeti?
No, so the very first race was like the Yeti spaghetti. So
Okay.
we would have people out on New Year's at my house, and we would just run a marathon on the trails, right? Like, and
What
it'd
was
be
this on the Creeper, or this was not on
no,
the
this
Creeper?
was at my house in Atlanta on the
Oh, right. Okay.
we connected to the park, and we'd have people. Then we started doing like ultra beer miles like a long time ago. And this is like where people, because I was in the craft industry, right? People would show up at my house and they would like, I'd be like, oh, it's a ultra beer mile. You know, we put beer around, and then it was look so shocked when we go back there, and they're like, that was 6 miles and 6 beers. Like, yeah, it's an
Yeah.
ultra beer
Yep.
mile. And
Yeah.
my favorite is no one complained and everyone came back. So what happened was the Yeti spaghetti just started kind of growing. You know, it's just a true fat ass. There's no shirts, no sign up. There was no results.
I
People
love it.
just showed up, ran a marathon, hung out. They brought stuff for a little aid station there. And we just ran out of my house. And then it got so big, and I decided, that maybe we should have, and at the time around my house, a lot of commercialization and a lot of like this green space was starting to go away with some development. So I was like, I'm going to put on a race to let people run where I run that they might not know. And it
Cool.
was this, and I told everyone in the very first race open to the public was the Yeti Snake Bite. And it was a 50-mile race and 50K.
You just put it on this last weekend, right?
Yeah, 11th year. And I told people every year, the first like couple years, I said, you will never run this course again. There will be development in part of the course. And now the course, the original course is like reduced down to 8 miles. So we used to get 25 miles to this. I used to run from the park
Holy
out to
moly.
this.
What
Yeah. Yes. That's how quick development happens. And then, I used to run to this amazing cuckoo clock shop. And the
oh
guy
man,
is
that's so
so
cool.
awesome. Yeah, his name is Champ's Clock Shop. And I like I said, we just ran miles and miles. And one day I ended up at the back of his clock shop. And just like you would think, like any person who owns a cuckoo clock shop is going to be eccentric as hell, right? And so the dude,
Kind of got to be, right? Like that's got to
yeah.
be in the bylaws of Cuckoo Clock shop
So he was like, I
owners.
was like, I would like to, we're going to have this race and we'd like to come all the way out here to the back of your cuckoo clock shop. And he was like, well, let's get in the car. So he took me down to his house,
Oh
and
man.
the dude, like, you know, made me, he had like a pair of geese, and they were like like these wild animals, and they were all like, you know, very domesticated. He made me carry around these geese, and he like introduced me to his mom. It was like, and he just like was filling my vibe out, right? And he said, I will gladly support your race anytime. Like, so he dropped me back off of the clock shop. He's like,
That's
you
awesome.
just name the day. We'll close the shop down. We can open it up. And they were home to the world's largest cuckoo clock, you know?
Wow, that's
And
cool.
he would invite me over on like daylight savings time, and the cuckoo clocks can't just run full time, right? They would just wear out, right? They're handmade, engineered.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, you got to rewind.
Like
You got to rewind, just like a
yeah. So,
watch.
but
Yeah,
they
sure.
just didn't let them run any. But so
Oh,
one
okay.
day a year during daylight savings time, all the cuckoo clocks would go off, and it was this amazing experience. So,
Oh man,
and he still does it.
cool.
And if you're ever in that area, it's a must do to see these historic cuckoo clocks going off by the hundreds.
Is it always on daylight savings time?
Yes.
It's called Champs Clocks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, this is the highlight of this episode. We're gonna put this in the show notes. Like, we're gonna flood this out to the Yeti Trail Runners email list. Yeah, man.
And he is such a rad person, man. Like, you ever meet someone and it's like, I could not get away from his stories, like
you because you call me 6 times a week.
He grew up in the area, and he would just tell me these wild tales, right? And it was so this is such a good connection, and sadly we just can't make it out there anymore. I've tried to look at a route, and it just crosses a damn busy road now, right? And it just can't happen.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
But we still have a lot of fun. And then next year, we go back to nighttime for the Yeti snake bite. We did it. We will alternate sometimes. It's been a while, and the last time I did it, I made my mentor Dave Milner dress up as Kenny Rogers, and then someone else dressed up as Dolly Parton. And we
you gotta get a George Jones out there, man. And George Jones is actually difficult, though.
I don't know if you know about this. I got really fixated on being the first person to ever put an aid station in the middle of a river.
Oh my gosh!
So I was so fixated. So we did it, and I made them dress up. I didn't make them. I asked them. And I brought a boombox down there, and they played "Islands in the Stream" on repeat.
Oh
right?
My gosh!
So what's so funny is I was so fixated on the idea of being like, we're going to put an aid station in the middle of the river. So we drug out tables and a float. I mean, it's a Sweetwater, very wide river. So you know what I forgot about? Like, it's so remote that no one could get water to them. So just the water that we drug in, like, to be there, and we ran out of water. But luckily, it was at a time where people didn't really complain, right?
Yeah. You're like, well, when's the next aid station? Whatever. Yeah, it's a 12-mile gap instead of a 6-mile gap. This is unfortunate, but okay.
Yeah, I still say, like, the hardest time is like ran the first Barkley Fall Classic, and at the time I was like, I'm pretty tough. I'll just run this with a handheld. I made it to like the first aid station. They were out of water. I was like, whatever, I'm tough. And then I made to the second one. They only had individually wrapped prunes. So my favorite part of this is I'm pulling up the rat jaw, and I'm dry. It's hot, and I see this dude puking, and he's just projectile vomiting. But he had one of those like mountain bike packs with the hose. You know what I mean? And I was so thirsty, I just ran up behind him and grabbed this man's hose and started drinking all his water. Because I was like, this dude is done anyway, right?
He's done for, man. He's cooked. I'm just gonna take care of it.
I drink all this person's water and made it up to that tower and finished the race. So, and I know people are like, "Oh, that didn't happen."
Oh man,
I got witnesses and receipts. So. But that was the wild times of ultra running, right? Like, if I ran out of water now, I would open up Facebook and people were like, that's a 1-star review. Out of water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where the race has Yelp reviews or something.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I tell people, like, I don't review races. They definitely aren't Amazon products. Like, you get what you put into ultra race. Right?
Yeah,
and if you want to
take the experience, do it for you, because that is extremely important, right?
Yeah.
I think on the front end, if you're going to an ultra race and you're running it because, hey man, I really like to run. I really like to run far. I want to see, am I capable of doing this audacious distance? At least what's audacious in my mind right now. Don't expect anything more than that. And if you get more than that, then you'll be drawn back to that race.
Yeah.
And if you're like, I think it could be better than this, I mean, start your bar super low.
Yeah,
if you start your bar super low with ultra running, you'll eventually find the ones that you want to keep coming back to.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes. Oh,
and if you have a mentor, it'll be easy to pick the races as well.
You know, every year, I tell all ultra runners, new, old, like as an ultra runner, you like every year that I've run ultras, I've picked a race that's been around for 25 years or more, and I run it.
Ah, that's so cool.
You know what I mean? It's a connection to the past, and to a lot of times the race director is still the same person, which is awesome, right?
Or it was handed off to a person that the original race director thought.
I mean, what's
really
Javelina been around, like 20 years?
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know, but
I've run 20% of them or whatever. I think this is year 21. Yeah, man.
And what a better person to hand it off to than I mean, Jamil and team does such an amazing job, you know?
Sure.
So
yeah,
that, and RD there, she is amazing.
Jubilee.
Yeah. Jubilee is like, I was like, I look at her and I'm just like, you are amazing. You know, every time I came by, I was just like, this person's so much energy and so awesome.
Yeah. Every loop you come through, it's a different costume. You know, like when I got my Javelina tattoo, which, you know, I have the Javelina tattooed up here above this, like, Grim Reaper with cats, which is the silliest combo, right? Jubilee got a Javelina tattoo with me dressed as the Pope, right?
Oh, really?
She was dressed as the Pope around the time that she heard, whoa, Patrick's getting a Javelina tattoo. I'm going to go get one with him. And we got tattooed together, like under a tent.
Dude,
just in the desert. We were both baked, you know, like just from being out there for 2 days. And
she's really like, I'm just really in awe of her. Javelina is 20 years old, it looks like.
Is this the 20th year? Or maybe this is the 21st year. Yeah,
I think so. But
that checks out.
I enjoy running that race. I run American River 50 a lot in the early days.
That was the other one I thought of when you talked about races that were more than 25 years old. I mean, man, American River is such a fun. I've only run the half. I've only run 25, but Julie puts on such a good race.
Yeah,
you know, you get the same vibe as Way Too Cool, man. Why? Because Julie puts them on. Right? Yeah, it's just a really cool down home vibe. But bukus of people, man. There are people that run it every year, and there's a reason people run it every year.
Yes, it's very fun. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy a lot of those races. And what else I've run a lot? Oh, Strolling Gym. Everyone should run Strolling Gym 40 mile. Like, to me, that's like very classic. I heard there's an aid station now, which I'm kind of disappointed in. Like, it was just like,
because there was a time, right?
Jugs of water on the side of the road. And Laz would just put that shit in the sun, even though there was an oak tree right across, you know, that he could have put it under. Just
what a wild
make it. So, Mountain Mist always run. Mountain Mist, Dink, Taylor. God, man, I love all those. They've such a history in ultra running, and their race really reflects a lot of that old school thing. You know, did you
get your 10th finish last year?
10th finish at Dink.
Wow. Really cool.
I told him I wasn't coming back. I got this jacket. I'm just going to sleep in it. But I've run a lot of races, multiple years. Another one that I've run a long time is H9. It's a 50 miler in August in Vogel State Park
in Georgia.
The RD's Perry. And the first time I ran one of this man's races, it's the hardest thing I'd ever done at that time. And when I came in, I had to knock on his cabin door, and I was like, I am done. And he was like, great job. And he didn't even open the door. And I just fell in love with it, right? Like, I fell in love with that idea of someone just, you know, there's some hard things there, you know. It's one of those races I will try to get back to every year. And Javelina is
because it
becoming
doesn't need to be this massive appraisal, you know.
no,
It doesn't have to be
and you
where.
know, and after you've been out there in the woods for that long, and it's like 16,000 feet of vert in August, you
Yeah,
know, like
for those that don't know, 16,000 feet of vert and 50 miles.
yeah,
The
and
H9 is extremely difficult.
91 degrees, and that's. But I think Javelina is becoming one of those races where my mind is like, oh, I really, really like it. Like it really moves me in a way. You
Sure.
know, it really, it's like the perfect merge of new school and old school, right? Like it's like Jamil and them have put it together in a way that it speaks to old school and new school the same way, and I love that. So, you know.
Yeah.
They even
There
dig up AJW to come announce it, right? I don't know. So like, I mean, um,
Yeah, now they do this perfect blend of there are these cool pre-race interviews with, icons of the sport, right?
yes,
People that have run the race for a long time, Pam Reed, right? AJW and other specialists that have run the course a bunch of times
yeah,
they have a really big time announcing crew now, right? People that cover the event and how the day is going and who the front runners are. But people that also cover, let's look at some costumes for a while, right? Like the cool thing about
yeah.
Javelina is, man, that the time of the year, it being a Halloween race, you can let loose a little bit too. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be this massive pressure. Like,
uh,
if you come from a road running background, right? Or you come
yeah,
from a triathlon background and you're getting into ultra running, this might be the perfect blend for you of a race that can have a somewhat serious vibe in terms of it's runnable, it's fast. You're
yes,
going to have a really fast time for 100 miles, but you're also going to have these massive challenges and you're also going to have this really fun vibe that might give you a good taste of like,
yeah.
oh, this is what the sport's all about. It's people just supporting each other. And even though I think we don't run washing machine style anymore, you're never running
Oh,
towards
yes,
people. You're
yeah,
only ever running clockwise now. You still get to
yes,
experience
yes. I
tons of
love it.
different people, man.
I I don't know if that race would. I think it'd still be the same if it happened on Halloween or not, right? You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah, for
that
sure,
type of
man.
party, right? Like it's so crazy. Like in my mind, I really, really want an uh, American Championship of ultra running, and I think Javelina is like the perfect ground for that, right? And
To be one of the North American championships. Yeah.
I think like the World Series, like right, because it's people can spectate well at it, right? Like great coverage on course for
That's the
people at
key.
home,
Can you
right?
spectate?
Yeah, and like it has a lot of things going for it. And I've been pushing for this. Like we all need to get on board with this, I want to. Where we have this big championship race in America, and you qualify by running any ultra sign up race in America, right? So
Oh, I like that.
we kind of give some back praise to Mark, who developed ultra sign up and lived in the Tenderloin there in a
Yeah,
200 square feet to build this race thing for us ultra runners, so that's what I
sure.
would like. I every time I go to Javelina, I was like, man, it really has the best atmosphere. And even if I'm at home and I'm watching on the computer, it's still really awesome. And I would just like that to be our championship.
I would have
Like,
to agree. I think it's a perfect end of the season.
yeah,
Where's your fitness at? Right?
yeah. So,
Especially for runners that maybe there's an upward
yeah,
limiter on like maybe I'm not going to go to UTMB and race,
yeah.
but I think that my North American and or World Championship race could
I,
be Javelina because it's the end of the season. It's just this like here's my body of work. Here's what I
yeah,
put in this year, and here's what I got out of it. That's what I've always loved about the timing of the race. It doesn't fall too late.
yeah.
Um, it's a great spectator course, and their coverage is just so dialed now.
Yeah, and I think we up the prize money to epic proportions, and then even the best costume contest gets some damn good money. Like I just don't know. I just love it. I would like to see that race, to me, like be just be it, right? Where we all are going there and it's a championship, and if you can't make it, you can view it so well. Like, it's just, to me, it sums up the perfect ultra running experience.
Yeah, it really does.
I'm jealous of
I
it.
think there are some other experiences though, like I think you are crafting that in Appalachia, maybe without the golden ticket side of it, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think part of Javelina being exceptionally competitive is it's a late season race where you can get your, well, I had a rough go at Western States this year, but I'm going to start my tickets again at
Yeah,
Javelina.
yes.
You know, and it's before holidays, etc., like in North America. But I think you're crafting that at the Yeti 100 too.
Yes.
I want to I want to hear more about like the origin and just like the general evolution of like how the 100 happened, right? Like we talked a little bit about snake bite, but I think that Yeti 100 is our East Coast version of this race, or has the potential to be on the pointy end of the spear, but also just like fast times all throughout the pack.
So I used to, when I go visit my mom, I would run on the trail, like during ultra running, right? And when I was like 13, like I said, I was really into hiking too, and I got dropped off at the top of the mountain. It was really, there was not developed trail at the moment. It wasn't, and I made
this is
it.
White Top, yeah,
and it was just tall grass on the trail. And I told my folks I would meet them, like I was going to overnight and then meet them the next day. But I was just like walking so well, hiking, that I ended up in Abingdon, and there were no cell phones then. And so I wanted to keep walking to a gas station and call and my folks weren't home. And we were too poor to have a fucking answering machine, right?
Gotcha.
So I had to sit there for hours and hours. So it's just a place of good memories of me, and my generations, my family grew up there. And as I went to run, other people would say, "Hey, Jay, when are you going to go up and run? I would like to join you there." And we go up there and we run it end to end, like no aid, no anything. Then all of a sudden,
55K, right?
Yeah. They're like 33 miles in, and we just run it as training runs. Very good place to train. It's beautiful. And then one day, someone brought the idea that they thought they could run 100 miles. It's like, let's, next time we come up here next year, run 100 miles. I'll get some buckles made, right? 10 people showed up.
Cool. Hey.
and they
it's like Bill Stevenson says though, man. It's like 50 people like my band. 50 people like my band. Who cares? That's what he said about all, like he's like, we were never as popular as Descendants. I didn't care. It was my band. I was just getting emotions off my chest. Right. So the first year, 10 people show up.
Well, I didn't even, it was just, there was no results. It just 10 people ran 100 miles with no aid stations. So the second
year,
everyone
finish? Everyone finished?
Yes.
Wow.
Second year we invite like Kathy, and everybody came. And I was like, okay, I guess next year we need to get more formal a little bit, and we'll do a sign up, right? Because we were just like crushing 100 miles. And so and I got so much, like, you would not believe the bullshit. Like, people are like, how are you going to get people here? There's no major airport. It's in the middle of Southwest Virginia. But when you don't give a shit, you don't give a shit. The first year, like 200 people showed up. Like, it was a big ultra back then, right? Like 10 years ago. Well, next year it'll be 10 years old to public. And same, ultraing was much different, right? And I was like, well, they can make it 18 miles without an aid station, right? Because the newcomers did. And it was very hard. And it just snowballed. People kept coming, and people kept coming back, and people still come back. We have multiple 5, 6, 7-year finishers. And
has anyone done them all?
No. Until one of the early records was set by Olivier, LeBlanc.
Sure. Yeah.
He just popped up one day. He was like, Jason, I'd like to run this. I was like, how do you even know about us? And, in this weird way, he just shows up at the damn starting line, right? And
oh, really? Oh, he just showed up to the starting line?
Like, he showed up. It was like some weird how he got to be there. I forget this. And I didn't know who he was. I had no idea. And all of a sudden, I'm like, this person is blasting, our aid station isn't even open. But he didn't care. he was just running on bottles of Coke, and
Yeah, Olivia's just so jovial and so
yeah,
low key. He does it
and
totally for himself, man. Like
and
no sponsors. He does it for himself.
and I told him, I was like, you got to come back for the 10th year, right? Like he hadn't,
Oh,
like you
cool.
got to come back, like, and I hope he does.
Is he
But
thinking about it?
I
Yeah.
don't know, I
Oh,
don't know,
okay,
but I
okay.
would love for him too, and I'm sure he's seen the race grow a lot. We all seen the race grow a lot, and it sells out quickly, and luckily everyone that comes is really awesome and gets the spirit of Appalachia, and really, the community really welcomes. You know, Appalachia suffered a lot, and especially right there in the heart of Appalachia in Southwest Virginia. Like I said, generations of my family still live there and call it home, and it suffered a lot. All the mines are shut down, the manufacturing shut down. So now we have tourism. So they
Sure.
love the Yetis coming, and they love them coming and staying. They think they're the best guests in Appalachia. That everyone in the ultra community is very open, fun, and honest, and they are very good guests. So, and that's how, um, Troublesome Hollow started up the road. Same way, like it's
Sure.
my family lived out there in the holler, like some of them, right? And I enjoy seeing it, and I enjoy seeing, the people that ultra running makes a difference in these little communities in Appalachia, like a huge difference. Sometimes it makes people's, years that the race comes to town. It provides a lot of
Yeah.
a lot, and everybody that runs, we provide a scholarship to a graduating senior in Southwest Virginia, and commit quite a few dollars to feeding Southwest Virginia to people in need there.
That's awesome, man.
It's still, like I said, I am not that far removed from a dirt floor cabin in Virginia there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my great grandfather, I have a photo in there, and it says, "We eat because of this dog and this gun," and it's him and his family on the front porch. I mean, my great
Yeah.
grandfather, right? Like, we're not. And I feel those people inside of me when I'm in Appalachia, right? And I feel their spirit, and so
Yeah.
it's good. It's good when people come back and they just go, "Man, I love this place. I would like to fucking live here," right? And it makes me feel
Yeah,
so
for sure,
good.
man. For
Yeah,
sure.
it
Like,
makes me feel really good.
well, I grew up, in the country in the foothills of Appalachia, in southwestern PA, and it's like that similar vibe, man, of people just, people work hard, people don't have a lot, and you're very appreciative of what you do have, and you're very appreciative of nature and
Oh yes,
trails and mountains and time in the woods. And that's just how I grew up, like loving the outdoors, and running just clicked for me too, man. The same way as it has for you, because there's not a lot to do in this small town. There, skateboarding was the thing, and
yeah,
skateboarding changed into running for me in high school. And I hated to sit the board down, but I knew I wanted to harness like something special from the running. And I can still enjoy the outdoors, but just in this way that's performative and
yeah,
fun,
yes, I do, and I love it. I can't say enough about ultra running and how great the community is, and just, I mean, think about it. You win races. I'm pulling up the rear, and we're really good friends and hang out and get to run together and have fun together, right? Like,
Yeah. And
no
it's
other,
not
like,
all about like,
yeah, like there's no, yeah, you know what I mean? And that's isn't that a great thing that we have, like, so much in common, and
sure.
I like respect your abilities a lot. We get along, right? You know, you you're out trying to win a race, and you guys, me over there as your crew. Like, this is
Yeah,
this
man.
is like, you know, I think you need some fireball, bat. Like,
Yeah,
I think
man.
that's what's so special about all of this, right? Like, it brings people together, no matter speed,
Yes.
any of those blocks of that other. running cultures bring, like there's a lot of other running.
Well, for me and you, I think it is what we loved about punk rock, because it feels like this sport that's on the fringes of what is popular. I guess.
Yeah.
To me, it does. I mean, it was part of like what attracted me so much and got me so into it was this is just different. There's there's not really any like swag, and I don't get the t-shirt with Exxon and Bank of whoever on the back, right? Like it's just this vibe, man. I like this vibe that isn't all about sponsors and medals, and more just like you going out in the woods and challenging yourself.
Oh yes, yeah.
We're roads, right? Like, I mean, you like road ultras a lot less than me, and you make that very cler.
Well,
but like,
let me jump on this.
So yeah, jump on this. I want to unpackage this.
I don't hate the act of road running. I think that road culture is broken. I see it on the internet, and I see just the other day. You know what upset me is I'm training for Javelina. I ran this downhill half marathon and a downhill marathon, right?
Sure.
So I go on the internet, and I guess Boston changed their qualifying standards. And all of a sudden I see under this thing is like, if you run a downhill marathoner, you're not really a marathon. Like people are like just knocking people. They're like, downhill marathon should be forbidden from the results, right? Because like I was like, what has happened? Like that to me confirms where I stand with that culture. Like I do not dislike road running. I've run more road ultras than probably a lot of people that are listening to this app, and I dislike road culture. I think they do a lot of gatekeeping. They do a lot it's just a lot of bullshit moves to people that just enjoy a run, right? Dude, I ran a downhill marathon. It fucking hurt me.
Here's the deal, man. Yes, the time could potentially be a little faster if your quads are conditioned enough, but you could also, number one, really hurt yourself. Number two, you could very easily blow your quads by the half marathon mark because you never run downhill.
Yeah.
Right. I'd like to see a lot of people run from mile 20 to mile 46 on the Western States course. Okay. Like, run to the base of Devil's Thumb and tell me that even though it's 17 miles of downhill running, is easier than a road, like marathon, right?
And here's what it did to me. Like, it put a thought in my head. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe running downhill is not running, right? Like, and that was really wrong. And that's what I'm talking about. If you go on Twitter, you go on like all this, you can easily pull up where that thread was happening, where people are like, banned downhill marathoners are not real runners.
Interesting.
That's
so toxic.
That shit ate my ass up, and I have like a pretty big wall up against it, right? Like, it even made me throw doubts into like, but then I was like, oh fuck, I know better, but that's what I don't like. I just think that culture is so fucking broken, like unbelievably so, that I don't think it can get put back together at all.
Well, I think maybe that feeling for you is why you gravitated towards this cool sport that we have, man. I think that's a big part of it. And I feel as well that I'm much more connected in the world of ultra running than in the world of road marathoning. And it's not that I don't like challenging myself for the road marathon. It's that people high five me even when I'm looking like hell. And my friends tell me, dude, you can finish this. You can keep going. When in the marathon, I feel like my counterparts or my peers would have said, hey, let's bag it at 18 and save it for the next one, because you only have so many of these in a year,
Yeah.
No one's ever told me to bag it at mile 60 when I'm having a bad time in 100. People were like, nope, you're finishing this thing, right?
Yeah, and you know what I like about the ultra run world? No one tries to define what I do. Like
No.
when I talk about the road culture being broken, they're all the time defining running. I can't define what running means to you or what it looks like to you, right? Like I've
Yeah, sure.
um as someone who, had a mountain accident and could not make a mile, when I finally made a mile, when I ran a mile, people probably said I wasn't running. Someone would define that act as not running, right? But to me, it's fucking running. And we, whatever that mile, 2 miles looks to you and feels like to you, that's what it is to you, right? And
Absolutely.
that's what I feel about. And this shit is just this fun, right? Like it's fucking fun. Like let's have fun with
It's
each
straight up,
other.
yes, it's straight up fun, and we need to keep it that way.
And that's what I
Yeah.
love so much about you. You fucking blast PRs, come back out, celebrate everybody, right? No matter what's going
Yeah.
on with them, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, like you are there to hold them up. And that's the
Well,
great thing
thanks,
about
man. I
ultra running.
mean,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's
I
like
love
to
that
see you
aspect of
come
it,
back
man.
out and just be like, even when you're having a bad day, Javelina, got to smile, help. You know what I mean? You still never missed the opportunity to cheer
Sure.
Lottie on that when she
Oh,
broke
yeah.
the record, right?
Of
Like, tell me where else people would remove themselves enough to kind of know their surroundings. That's ultra running. Ultra running is full of people, right? Like
Yeah,
real people.
I think certain character types are drawn to our sport, and I hope that we continue to get more of that character type, that fills our world with just, like, lovely attitudes and people that like to work hard and, people that enjoy audacious challenges, but are humble about them,
Yes, yeah.
because that's important. That's an important part of it. I don't feel like someone that runs 12 hours and X minutes makes them superior to someone that runs 29 hours and X minutes. I
Yes.
actually think it's harder to be
Yeah.
closer to 30 hours. The
Yeah.
closer I've got to it, like throughout my career in ultra running. Hey man, one of the hardest hundreds I ever had to run was the one that took me the most time. Like absolutely. Like
I
finishing Western States in 2021 was extremely difficult. Just
yeah.
finishing taking 19 hours and 30 minutes, which was like 3.5 hours slower than I'd run the previous edition of it because there was that gap year. That was one of the hardest things I finished and ever had to do. And a big part of it was just Sharman being like, "Okay, Pat, can we please run a little bit on the flat sections?" He's like, "You're doing a good job trotting on the downhills. Now I'd like you to start running the flat sections."
God,
I
yeah.
can just remember Ian, and being so encouraging, and like the bond that we had that summer, him pacing me there and me pacing him
Yeah.
at Leadville that year. It was wonderful, and those are the memories that you craft with each other, pushing each other through challenging, audacious things.
Yeah. And we need to keep, ultra running weird. And I just wrote Ultra Running Magazine a email. I was like, hey, like, can we have more weird personalities? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Can
I love that.
someone find where Jen Shelton is so we can hear about her crazy antic trips? Like great writers are in ultra running. And I was like, oh, what happened to this? Like, I don't need so much technical stuff. Like, give me the days of Jen Shelton and these trips, these attempts gone awry, and the personality. That's what makes what we do identifiable with everyone, right? Because when you
Agreed.
run long distance, the shit will go sideways sometimes, right? Like, and we just all have a bunch of weird ass personalities, and somehow we all come together, right? Like,
Yeah, and I think those stories need to be told, man. And that's
yeah,
part of what we're doing today, man. That's like the wonderful thing about the
yeah.
conversation. All right, so what's next for Yeti, man? What's next for Yeti trail runners, and what do you have coming up? You're done with
So
Snakebite for the year. You're done with Yeti 100.
yeah, so I got invited to put on an event in New Mexico to celebrate Smokey the
Cool.
Bear's 80th birthday there in Capitan, New Mexico. So that will be a new era. Like we come into New Mexico, and I went to run there, and I fell in love with everyone there, and I fell other people. It's truly the Wild West there, and
nice.
I said I felt very honored to someone to reach out and say, "Would you help us celebrate Smokey's 80th birthday?" Right? Like,
yeah, man.
And I was just like, "Fuck! Did they know I got a Smokey the Bear tattoo?" You know, like,
That's rad.
Yeah, I felt very honored, and we right now have people from 41 states coming to this race next April.
That's awesome,
so I'm really looking forward to it, right? And Dark Inker, which has turned into a huge success for around the country, and now we have like 3 countries being represented this year at Dark Inker.
So awesome.
Savannah
and Savannah, right in my hometown, like such a cool destination race, and keep your finger on the mouse for when sign up opens.
Yeah, and you know what, I love that people when they come there, they bring their families, their friends, significant others, and they just make a vacation out of it in Savannah, because Savannah is awesome and has a lot of tales to tell, right? So
totally, man.
I love going there.
All right. Lightning round, and how I like to finish the cast sometimes is we get to talk a little bit about some of our favorite things. Favorite record, Jason Green.
Oh man,
this is hard. Favorite front to back best vibes record. First reaction.
Oh geez. This is very hard. God, I'm trying to think here. Right, let me pull it.
We can do one.
Keep it here. I'm going to pull up what my biggest repeat on Spotify is.
All right,
right?
We'll each do one. I'm going to say NoFX's Punk and Drublick, which I feel like is a pretty good one. That tape was handed to me when I was 13 or 14 years old. Cassette. I think I still got the cassette right back there in that little shelf, man. And man, what a record. Like every track is just like, it's all these vibes, all this nostalgia from your youth,
Spotify tells me that the most plays of my album is The Smith, There Is a Light That Never Goes Out.
Oh man, we were just talking about how you shouldn't listen to too much Morrissey, man.
Oh man, wow. I got all weird.
All right. Favorite band when it comes to just like consistency in their discography, or live show, like whatever band has just encapsulated like everything that punk rock or music in general means to you.
Gosh, I think you and I were talking. I think the Descendants pretty kill it for me, even as an adult. I just went, to see them in Athens, and the same emotions when I was 13 seeing them, I almost want to say, if Fugazi was still moving forward, I would say Fugazi. Okay. I used to really love Fugazi. They just kind of just stopped, it's like, and then Ian went to the Evens or whatever that he had to go do more weird shit. So
yeah, and he's still doing such cool weird music with Corky and his current project, man.
But I'm with you. So cool. Like, and the Descendants, when I go see them, put on a really great show, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, man. I saw them in May. I'm seeing them again in October, and it's just wow, these guys are still doing it. Every song is so tight, clean, right? Yeah, and so good, and they're so tight.
So much energy coming out to the crowd. So I would definitely go with that. How about you?
I'm somewhere between, me, man. Like I really like blues and jazz and pre-World War II music, man. It's just like captured me in this way, and so has like outlaw country as well. But there's something about seeing Descendants. Yeah, geez, I'm wearing the Halloween version of the shirt today too, man. There's something about seeing them that lately that just has me so fixated on them. I've probably seen NoFX as much as anybody. It's also hard to cross compare. Yeah. I think the vibe that I like the most, having seen them like very early on in their career, was Against Me. seeing Against Me live. So they put on one of the most special wild shows I've got a chance to see in my life, like in basements, and they play with the same energy on big stages as they do in basements. I think Laura Jane Grace.
I would agree with that. I thought that Reinventing Axl Rose was probably one of the best albums I'd heard come out. And when I saw them at MJQ in Atlanta at a live show, I was blown away. Right? Like to me, I was like, American Steel, like Against Me just took it up another notch. I just love their atmosphere. But it's funny what you just said, like about country. Do you know I know a lot of people that like just love like George Jones, Waylon Jennings, like that era of country music.
Sure. Like, and Loretta Lynn and
some of those, they touch you so deep, like in a place that's really hard to reach. Some of those songs do, and
between some of Iris DeMent's records and John Prine's and Townes Van Zandt, I mean, like all those records, man, the music they've created, and I mean, without exception, you mentioned Dolly, and there's something special and kind of alternative about that in a certain way too. You feel like I'm an outcast of society in this way, and I want to express it through country music. I think you get reflections of that in bands like Against Me, that take elements of country music or Lucero, whatever, right, and they channel it through punk rock. That's pretty special.
I thought it was interesting that like Rick Rubin, a big hand in alternative music, really propelled Johnny Cash's career out of like into probably homes he would never be in ever, right? Sure. Like he really so I found that to be amazing, and that's how married all like people listen to punk and like will get into country. They're usually very similar, right?
It's kind of how I ended up really getting into like jug band music and pre-World War II jazz and pre-World War II blues music, country blues. It's just like, whoa, this is maybe the OG of it all. There's something so expressive about that music, all right, well, I'm a painter and I rode this train from Memphis to somewhere in Alabama and met up with some of my buddies, and we made this record, and then I had to go back to Memphis, right, on another freight train. Like there's something really powerful about that like you want to talk about cutting your teeth and making a living in the world, yet still doing your art. That's very cool. Like Gus Tannen, Memphis Jug Band, Mississippi Sheiks, like Memphis Mimi, that whole culture is really like similar to me in this way. It's just like, well, the modern day way of doing this is just we load it all up in the vehicle and we drove out of the valley to LA and nobody liked us, but we kept coming back for 40 years, and now people like us.
and I will say also, just a couple years ago went to see Run the Jewels. Like, so
Killer Mike.
And once again, here is Run the Jewels kind of encapsulates the punk and that outlaw country, I love it. Like Killer Mike is so for people listening, I try to span through, I think if I pull up my records, I think just yesterday I was listening to Beach Boys all day. Sometimes I think
Beach Boys in here. Sure.
I think Pet Sounds might be one of the best albums ever made.
That album's incredible. Like Abbey Road, Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
Everything Sucks Where Milo Goes to College is in there. It's in that realm, I mean, it's wild, like how you can have all these albums that are considered in totally different genres, but they have the same energy and they propel you. They make you feel the same, I could put on Sarah Shook and the Disarmers, or I could put on Against Me, or I could put on Descendants, and I bet you I'm going to feel pretty similar vibes, just like, wow, this music is special, and it's people talking about things that mean something.
This morning I was getting ready for a run, and Tracks of My Tears came on my little Spotify, and I was like, man, this song just hits so deep, right? Like definitely one of the top 20 songs ever written in my mind. Like just moved me this morning to no end. So I always try to keep music like Spotify, like this mix going in the morning, because it reminded me of a song like Tracks of My Tears. I mean, Jesus Christ, that song hit me this morning, you know?
All right. Last but not least, favorite skateboarder. Who's your favorite skateboarder?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
There's so many good ones. I want to see if you're more like a big ramp guy or if you're more of a Rodney Mullen guy, man.
So I definitely like early on was like really into like Jason, Jesse, and Eric Dressen, right? Like Santa Cruz, like street skaters. But then like I really like some in my middle teens there, like Jason Lee and Mark Gonzalez to me like just spoke so deeply. Like they were so creative and weird and wacky. Like they were into art and taking photos, and like, it just really spoke to me. Like they were really multi-dimension in art and skateboarding and art, and they all, it comes together. So I would dare say, if I had to nail it, Mark Gonzalez is my favorite skateboarder ever. Most creative, most design worthy,
Cool.
How about you?
Oh man, I'm more in that Rodney Mullen group, man.
Oh,
all that weird freestyle.
Yeah.
I like that.
See, you're getting too Florida. Rodney Mullen.
Andy Anderson is like one of the newer versions of that, right? Like he has just like such a weird techie style of skateboarding.
I'm more into like little things that don't make sense, but then you're like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like someone's imagination
how did
just
pull that off.
Someone's imagination just came through their skateboard. And I like that. Like that's one thing I always liked about skateboarding. There's no like, it could never be defined really. Like people just made it their own. They're like, we're gonna start going down these handrails, right? We're gonna just
there was like no like ramp is cooler than street or street is cooler than ramp. It's just like, well, it's cold out and we're on the ramp,
Yes, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
and it's hot and we're in the shade, and
the
shade happens to be by this staircase. Yeah.
I mean, these days I'm just a curb dog. I'm getting old and I hurt, and so I just really grind a lot of red curbs in the town here. So,
well, Jason, this has been fun, man. How about, where can people find you? I know that anyone that's curious more about Yeti Trail Runners, like you've got a website, YetiTrailRunners.com.
I hope we got a website. Do people still use websites? Oh,
I do.
You can find Yeti Trail Runners on Instagram, a Facebook group. I know, like, Facebook's really good for groups these days, right? So it's a really good supportive group on Facebook. And if you message me on Instagram, sometimes it's hard because they just like pile on notifications every morning. So I might not reach you there. But if you email me the Ultra Sign Up, I will email you back, and my cell phone number will be on that email. So if you ever need a thing or a friend to talk to, my number's on there, my cell phone number. And if I can't answer, I promise I'll get back to you. I'm probably out running or doing weird shit. So that's how you can get in contact with me.
Awesome. And if you're looking to take a look at Jason's different races, make sure you do on the website, where you can sign up for virtually anything on Ultra Sign Up. A lot of them sell out very quickly, but And
if you're listening to this and you're going to run Javelina, share a mile with me. Let's catch up. I want to hear your story, right? Let's have a good time.
Maybe we're going to have a Javelina episode here in the future together too. That'll be fun. All right. Good. Well, awesome. Jason, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, man. It was awesome.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for being along for the ride. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jason Green as much as I did. For more information about the podcast, you can read about it down in the show notes. And for more information about Jason, you can go to YetiTrailRunners.com or follow along on Instagram at YetiTrailRunners. We'll see you next time.